human rights lawyer Mrs. Funmi Falana's son has dragged the Delta State government and the Federal Capital Territory before the Federal High Court in Lagos over their failure to assess 68 billion naira Universal Basic Education Commission funds to provide free basic education for their citizens. Hamas political leader has confirmed it is studying a new proposal to pause the fighting in the Gaza Strip. In sport, 8 teams have so far booked their places in the ongoing 2023 Africa Cup of Nations quarterfinals as of Tuesday yesterday. It is a lovely Wednesday. Beautiful welcome to you here on News Hour with me, Chioma Vic-Chukwemeka. We begin in law, where the human rights lawyer, Mrs. Funmi Falana's son, has dragged the 36 state government and the Federal Capital Territory before the Federal High Court in Lagos over their failure to assess 68 billion naira Universal Basic Education Commission funds to provide free basic education for their citizens. The son said the state failed to pay the counterparts fund necessary to assess the UBEC funds to provide free basic education for citizens. Also joined as defendants in the suit are the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi's son, the Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Mamman, son, and UBEC Falana wants the court to determine whether the refusal or failure of the respondents to assess the sum of 68 billion naira for the universal basic education of children of school age in Nigeria is illegal, as it violates Section 11(2) of the Compulsory Free Universal Basic Education Act, Laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 2004. Away from that story, the President of Nigerian Labour Congress, Joe Ajaero, has criticized the selection process of the state governors drafted as members of the 37-member tripartite committee on minimum wage, noting that most governors on the panel do not pay the current minimum wage. Ajaero, speaking on a TV program on Tuesday, said most of the governors in the minimum wage committee are those who are not paying minimum wage or paying them in breaches. Earlier in the day, Vice President Kashim Shettima had inaugurated the committee at the council chamber of the presidential villa, Abuja, saying that the decision was aimed at ensuring a decent living wage and in compliance with the existing National Minimum Wage Act of 2019, which will expire in a few months from now. In his opening address, Shettima urged members to speedily arrive at a resolution and submit their reports early, as the current 30,000 naira minimum wage expires at the end of March 2024. Kidnappers of the 5 pupils of Apostolic Faith Group of Schools, Emure Ekiti, and 4 staff members have demanded 100 million naira ransom for the release of the 9 victims who were taken away on Monday. The principal of the Sunbury School section of the school, Boje Olanireti, confirmed the ransom demand in an interview with newsmen on Tuesday. The abduction epidemic has continued to defy the efforts of the security agencies, as cases of kidnappings were being recorded in various parts of the country daily. The abduction of school children and 4 staff members occurred when the school bus conveying 25 pupils home after school hours was waylaid by the gunmen in the Emure community in Ekiti State. Shedding light on how the incident occurred, Olanireti explained that the abduction occurred about a 5-minute drive from the school. Transparency International Nigeria says Nigeria now ranks 145 out of 180 of the Corruption Perception Index. The latest index recently released by TI indicated that Nigeria moved up 5 places from previous CPI ranking released in 2022. In the previous report, Nigeria was ranked 150 out of 180 countries on the scale of corruption. The latest report, which is the first released under President Bola Tinubu, showed that Nigeria ranked 145 out of 180 countries and scored 25 out of 100 points. The CPI score indicates the perceived level of public sector corruption on a scale of 0, representing highly corrupt, to 100, representing least corrupt perception. Reacting on Tuesday, the federal government described the country's new ranking as a sweet news and a demonstration of the Tinubu's administration's steady progress in its anti-corruption campaign. We head right now to Osun State, where the governor Ademola Adeleke has again imposed a 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew on Ilobu and Ifon communities following renewed hostilities involving the towns. He also raised a joint task force and deployed security agents, including soldiers, to the warring communities. The governor announced its decision in a statement by the Commissioner for Information and Public Enlightenment, Kolapo Alimi, on Tuesday. Militias from Ilobu and Ifon communities had resumed fighting in villages at the border of Osun and Oyo State on Monday. Police confirmed the deaths of 2 persons and the destruction of property in the resurgent crisis. More than 320 Nigerians stranded in Libya have been rescued, with the International Organization for Migration coordinating moves to help them return to Nigeria. War-torn Libya has become a key departure point on North Africa's Mediterranean coast for migrants, mainly from other parts of Africa, risking dangerous sea voyages in hopes of reaching Europe. Libya's rival administrations last year agreed on a Tripoli-based anti-immigration body tasked with coordinating deportations of foreigners who are in the country illegally. The House of Representatives Committee on Constitutional Review will meet on Wednesday, that will be today, to commence work on provisions of the 1999 Constitution requiring review and amendments. It was reported recently that the committee chaired by the Deputy Speaker of the House, Benjamin Kalu, would meet as soon as the House reconvenes from the Christmas and New Year holidays. The National Assembly, in collaboration with the state assemblies, is expected to revisit state police, local government autonomy, electoral act, amendment, and diaspora voting, among others. The 37-man committee comprises of representatives from each of the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. The 1999 Constitution has been altered 5 times, but the challenges of governance, demand of improved transparency and accountability, and restructuring of Nigerian state, among others, have made further amendments to the nation's extant law inevitable. We move right now to Kaduna State, where the State Ministry of Health has estimated that no fewer than 5,570,722 residents are at risk of contracting the dreaded river blindness and other neglected tropical diseases across the 23 local government areas of the state. The ministry identified the other such diseases to include lymphatic filariasis, bilharziasis, and intestinal worms. The State Commissioner of Health, Hajia Umar Ahmed, disclosed this to journalists in Kaduna on Tuesday to mark the 2024 World Neglected Tropical Diseases Day. The 2024 World NDTS Day has its theme as Unite to act towards elimination of NDTs. According to Ahmed, over the years, the state has been collaborating and working with all relevant stakeholders, particularly non-governmental development organizations such as Site Savers, to tackle the menace of NTDs in the state. In Anambra State, the Managing Director, Anambra State Health Insurance Agency, ASHIA, Dr. Simeon Onyemechi, has mandated officers in charge of primary healthcare facilities to always refer critically ill enrollees who are under the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund to their designated secondary health care facilities for effective and qualitative treatment. Dr. Onyemechi made this known at a training in OICs on the use of BHCPF, Monitoring and Evaluation Collection Tool, in Awka. Dr. Onyemechi, who expressed displeasure at the low outcome of secondary care referrals recorded within 1 year, added that a healthcare professional should not risk the life of his patient and must always know when to refer patients, as well as limit themselves to primary level of care treatments. The ASHIA Managing Director, while speaking on the poor access to healthcare, cautioned against the submission of encounter forms even when enrollees do not access care, and advised them to desist from such fraudulent acts. The BHCPF focal person, Mr. Okbalanwaka Juliet, while retraining the participants on the monitoring and evaluating data collection tool, reminded the IOCs on the importance of early submission of data for proper documentation and validation. Away from Nigeria right now, an Iraqi militant group suspected of launching a drone strike in Jordan that killed 3 U.S. soldiers says it has suspended operations against the U.S. Kataib Hezbollah, the Iran-aligned group that took credit for the attack on Sunday, said it was to prevent embarrassment of the Iraqi government. U.S. President Joe Biden said he had decided how to respond to the attack but did not elaborate. Iran has warned it will retaliate against any attack on its interests. Earlier, it denied U.S. and British accusations that it was involved in Sunday's attack. Away from Iraq, we move right now to Brazil, where the President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has sacked the Deputy Director of the National Intelligence Agency and 4 department heads. Investigations continuing to claim that the agency are being illegally spied on ex-President Jair Bolsonaro's enemies. The deputy, Alexandre Moretti, is accused of passing information to former ABIN boss Alexander Ramagin, a politician for Mr. Bolsonaro's party. Mr. Bolsonaro says he and his family are being persecuted. Lula has rejected that claim, saying his government does not give orders to the federal police. Hamas political leader has confirmed it is studying a new proposal to pause the fighting in the Gaza Strip. Ismail Haniyeh said the group had been invited to discuss a framework set out by Israel, the US, Qatar and Egypt. It reportedly proposes a 6-week truce when more Israeli hostages will be exchanged for Palestinian prisoners. Mr. Haniyeh stressed that Hamas' priorities were a permanent ceasefire and full Israeli withdrawal, but Israel's prime minister ruled them out. Benjamin Netanyahu insisted the war would not end until total victory had been achieved, which he said meant the elimination of Hamas and the release of all hostages. The conflict was triggered by an unprecedented cross-border attack by Hamas gunmen on southern Israel on 7th of October, in which about 1,300 people were killed and about 250 others taken hostage. More than 26,700 people have been killed in Gaza since then, according to the territory's Hamas-run health ministry. Now we move into the interesting world of sports. 8 teams have so far booked their places in the ongoing 2023 Africa Cup of Nations quarterfinals as of Tuesday yesterday. Angola were the first to qualify after the Parancas and Negras, that's Black Sable Antelopes, trashed Namibia on Saturday evening. The attacking-sided team will now face the Sportingos of Nigeria, believed to be one of the favorites of the competition after beating the indomitable Lions of Cameroon. The surprise of the tournament was the round 16 match between the host Côte d'Ivoire and the defending champion Senegal, as hosts advanced to the last 8 thanks to Frank Kesey's penalty that kept them in the game to penalty shootouts in the Elephants' favor. Meanwhile, elite Ryan Mendes' penalty sealed the win for Cape Verde, sending them through to the quarterfinals for the second time in their history. Cape Verde boss Bubista, who was delighted with his side's performance, said, and I quote, "We are carving our path. We know there are many bigger teams than us, but we are trying to focus on our game to have the opportunity to face these African powerhouses." Another blow in this tournament is Guinea's dramatic winner in the 8th minute of injury time as they beat 10-man Equatorial Guinea 1-0 on Sunday. The last 16 tie at the Abimpe Olympic Stadium in Abidjan was heading for extra time when Bayo of French League One side Le Havre struck right at the death to spark frenzied scenes of celebration among the Guinea team and their large support. It was a historic moment for the slight national, who had never previously won a Cup of Nations knockout tie. They were runners-up in 1976 in an era when the Final Four played a round-robin format to decide the winner of the trophy. The Pharaohs of Egypt were also victims of one of the upsets of this tournament, as DR Congo sent them back home after a penalty shootout. And Bafana of South Africa shocked 10-man Morocco to reach the last 8. We await all these games as they move into the quarterfinals. That's it on the news today. A quick reminder of our top stories. We told you that human rights lawyer Mrs. Funmi Falana San has dragged the 36 state governments and the Federal Capital Territory before the Federal High Court in Lagos over their failure to access 68 billion naira Universal Basic Education Commission funds to provide free basic education for their citizens. Hamas political leader has confirmed it is studying a new proposal to pause the fighting in the Gaza Strip. 8 teams have so far booked their places in the ongoing 2023 Africa Cup of Nations quarterfinals as of Tuesday yesterday. That's it on News Hour today. On behalf of the editorial production crew, I am Chioma Victor. Stay here on TV Sapienza. We have other programs to make sure that you enjoy an interesting midweek. Kindly be security conscious, be on the alert. Whatever it is you do, ensure it is productive. Good afternoon from here, and stay with us.